kind of fun to recycle. It's almost like recycle, reuse, right? Or you can combine pieces of like one wax piece with another in a collage, right? So I think that there's ways to like kind of reincorporate the wax art that you make. And like nothing, I don't think anything's ever like wasted, right? And I mean, I talked about this last weekend, but I'm about to go back and scrape back probably about 20 works of art that are complete failures, right? And that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to finally say, like, yeah, it's just not making it and it's got to go, right? But you have to remember that the process is building your confidence, the ability to make that decision that you don't like it and you want to do something else is also like a maturity thing. And it's totally just like, I don't make, everything I make doesn't work. That's just not how art is, right? And I think the more I make, the more likely my chances of making something good. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. That's sort of like a personal thing, but I definitely have created a lot of shortcuts so that I can make more work and be a little bit more, have a little more fun with it, right? You don't want to be so intimidated or stressed out the whole time that you don't feel creative, right? Oh, you got your ball? Oh, sorry. Oh my God, I was looking for my paper towels. All right, so some materials that I might get are paper towels, right? I already glued this. Do you guys want me to demonstrate how I glue paper to paper? Do you want me to demo how I glue stuff, or are you guys good on that?
You brush it on? You brush the glue on?
Yeah, Celia, do you want me to demonstrate how I glue?
Sure, just because I've never done it. And I was going to ask you, okay, what do you do with the pieces that you scrape back? Do you try and rework them into something else, or?
Oh, you mean the panels I'm going to scrape back?
Yeah, the 20 panels or so that you said.
Oh my God. Yes, absolutely. I can't. Yes. Okay. So I would never. I'm lucky. I have a big space here. My studio is very large, but I don't throw away anything. So what happens for me is, because I'm a fairly prolific artist, is that like every couple years I'll kind of look at my sales and my shows, and I'll go, these pieces were successful, these pieces were not. Am I going to resell them or re-show them, or has my style changed? Like, and I'm basically looking at the wood as like a permanent attachment. Like, I'm invested in the wood, but maybe not invested in the art.
Okay.
So I just basically take a heat gun and a paint scraper, and I scrape back to the panel.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure how far back you scraped, if you just scraped off the wax and tried to redo the piece, but
that's a really good question. So that's up to you. You can decide if you still like the photo, and sometimes what happens is that you find something really beautiful in the scraping back, right? So there is this little sort of what I call like magical unknown world of encaustic art, where things are happening within the layers of the wax and the paint that are sort of out of your control. And sometimes when you like toss up your hand about directing it and you're just kind of like doing it, maybe something magical happens, right? So as you're heating and scraping back, if you guys want to watch me scrape back a painting, that could be really fun. I could scrape back a good one that's like, I have a couple that I really tried. I mean, really hard to make them good and work it out, and they just never made it.
Okay.
So we could do that, and basically you'll see probably like 5 or 6 layers of wax, and then the original photo. And when you get back down to the original photo, you can take a belt sander and you can sand that thing right off and go down to the wood grain, or you can just glue over it. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Because, if you're talking about $20 to $50 per wood panel, I mean, I'm not throwing that away.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't have, $500 around to just replace panels because I'm not happy with my painting. I also think it makes me fairly critical of my own work, which is sometimes good. And I have to make decisions, like big girl decisions, like you're staying, you're going, you know what I mean? Editing decisions, which are not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Those are not fun decisions, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to do it. And what I often do is give myself a lot of time, right? So I kind of give myself maybe literally maybe 2 or 3 years where I just don't touch something. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, I got to deal with that panel, right? And it's got to go. All right. So, with the glue, I like these rollers. I also like foam brushes. I just ordered new foam brushes, but kind of like the generic foam brush, right? You can use the foam brush. You could also use a roller like this, right? A roller. They also sell foam rollers, which are also really good, right?
Okay.
Anything to kind of make your gluing life easier. I just ordered some new foam brushes because I kind of didn't realize that I was out, but they come in all different widths. I mean, you can use any type of brush. You could even use a big fat stiff brush like this for the glue, right? And the glue is water adhesive. So let me see. I'm just gonna glue. I'll just glue this flower. I printed a bunch of flower stuff over the weekend. Hold on, let me find a good print. So this is a medium weight. A medium weight inkjet matte paper, right? So I might get a tray. I have a better brush. Oh, I have a better brush. Good. I might just get an aluminum tray like this and put the glue in there, right? And I don't add water. Some people add water to PVA glue. So this is what I was talking about. If you wanted to mix them, I cut my hands. I can't. Can you open this? I'm going to add a little bit of the wood glue just to show the sort of idea of mixing them. Depending on your panel size, you could put it over top like that, or you can cut around the outside. Also, I'm lucky my husband works in a business where he often has access to wood. So I get a lot of random, sizes, right? So, and I kind of like that because it just sort of allows me that sort of irregularity of always having an 8x10. So I get some of his miscuts and stuff from work. And so he brings them home for me in a box, and I can go, oh yeah, I can see this. This is a more interesting size than this and maybe better fit. So you can always match them. Also, I like to do prints that are smaller than my canvas size. So that would look like this. So a canvas that was bigger than my photo size would look like this, right? And I also like to think about outside edges a lot when I start my work. So I might think about outside line, right? So cutting along the line like this, right? So I like to think about possibilities, right? There's sort of infinite possibilities of putting the way I put something together. And it just keeps it interesting for me, and trying different things. So and then I start to sort of notice what I like about this picture, and I already decided what I liked about this was sort of this this arched line here. So, right, this, I like this line, right? And the reason I like that line too is that I know I mean, this, you might never see this, but I know if I have half of this canvas that's realistic, I sort of have something to like go with over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can paint that, right? I could freestyle that. So then I can think about, this going on in a sort of, happenstance way. And then this would give me, I can already sort of see the story, right? Like elaborating to this other side of the canvas, right? Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of this. Can you guys see this far? Let me know if you can't see. Also, Jen, can you be my timekeeper?
Sure. What do you want me to time?
Let me know when we get to 7, if you guys need like a break to go to the bathroom or something, and then just, I don't know, maybe let me know when it's 7:45. What time is it now?
6:52.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Okay. Oh my God, where did the time go? Okay, so I'm gonna quickly glue this, and then I'm gonna move on to waxing. So did you see how I kind of like took the print and thought about like, oh, what would it look like on this one? What would it look like reduced, right? So I kind of I cropped in, and this is like goes back to sort of our photography skills, you guys, where we're like at the 70 millimeter, we're at the 125, we're at the 200, we're at the 300. I mean, last summer I got to photograph with a 600 millimeter lens, and I'd never looked at the world like that. Like, it was crazy. Right? So I was really zoomed in. I've never been that zoomed in. So, it's all about sort of perspective, right? So like here's zoomed in, here's zoomed out, and then here's zoomed out more. All right? So that's literally how that goes. I mixed these two together a little bit, right? So I put a little bit of wood glue, a little bit of PVA. I'm just gonna go right onto the paper because I feel like if I go onto the wood, my wood is more likely to absorb the glue, whereas the paper won't. So my glue will stay wetter, gluier, moister, whatever word you want to use, longer. Okay, because wood will absorb the glue. And then a lot of times when I put the glue on the wood, by the time I get the print on there, I'm like, oh my God, where did the glue go? Right? So this is I definitely always put it on the print, right? I also feel like I can move it around a little bit better. All right, and here, so I just do like that. And then this is what I love about matte paper is that it just goes on so nice and easy. It's very bendable, like here at the bottom. Like I can round the edges, right? I can fold it, I can tear it.
We can air bubble of your panel, Leah. Can you move that up, like towards the glue? Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you. Please tell me. I can't see anything. So, I mean, I can only see what's in front of me. So, you be my eyes, okay, you guys? Okay. On my camera eyes, right? Okay. So, I could also like fold the corner, which is kind of cool, right? And I can also work the print a little bit. So, one of the pluses about the matte paper is it's very moldable, meaning I can move it around. One of the minuses is that it does scuff a little bit, right? So here I scuffed it a little bit, but I also like that. Like I like to kind of make it imperfect and have it look, a little rough, right? A little rough, not too sharp. Okay, so I think that looks cool. So any questions on gluing? And then I would glue, usually, Celia, I usually work in like sort of batch rotations where I might glue a bunch and then let them dry and then wax a bunch and then kind of let them so I work in like little groups of pieces together, right? Just helps me kind of like because sometimes you're like not in the mood to like get the glue out, get everything out. So you could like plan a day to print, you could plan a day to glue, then give this like 24 hours and then plan a day to wax, right? And then you can continue waxing and painting, really until you think the piece is done. Okay? All right, so I'm gonna let that go over here. All right, and I'll just rinse this out or let this just dry in here, and I will wash this brush. And that's a good brush, so I'll make sure I wash it. Okay. So now I'm gonna wax. I already, and the same thing, like I would have rolled, if I was gluing a bunch or big, I would have used these rollers in the glue and rolled onto the back of the print and then placed the print onto whatever substrate I was using. Any questions on that?
Just real quick, two questions. You
Go
said
for it, yeah.
you have the print smaller than the substrate. Is that just a preference or a compositional, for more interest?
I actually said that. Oh no, it's totally optional.
Okay.
For me, okay. So where I'm at with my personal work right now is that I'm sort of pushing myself to have what I would call more quiet space in the work. So, like, this is actually a perfect example, right? So this photo fills the frame, right?
Right.
It's all her, right? But I actually am preferring like this type of work where whatever the subject matter is actually smaller in relationship to the encaustic.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, and I was thinking about that when I was looking through photos today, like what the subject was and what was around it and how busy it was and
Yes.
it and that whole thing.
Oh my God! Well, I just got chills because I can't tell you how happy I am that you are thinking about these things, because these are the things that are so important to me as an art teacher and as an artist. Like, what's the difference between like her being like more dominant and it being more about the figure and more about sort of this subject matter, and then what's the difference between her being smaller and it being like more about, and like even if we covered her up, like more about like this like just beautiful color and sort of encaustic like marks and sort of this undefined, whatever space this is, right? So I used to be like more interested in this, because I was a photographer. I was more interested in like the wax and photo kind of like, just blending the edges and getting a little texture. But now I'm into like these sort of like other worlds that I feel like the wax can really evoke. And the worlds are sort of like soft and dreamy and not defined, right? They're softer colors. They're just like more ephemeral and imaginative, right? And very textured. I do think that wax is complicated, right? Because not only does it have color and opacity, but then it also has texture. So it literally already has like 3 big qualities or characteristics to it. And then we're adding sort of this subject matter or content with whatever drawing or photograph we're using. So this type of work is like how I made this painting, right? Whereas this painting was just this photograph of this girl filling this frame.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so the only real, like, I think, real dreamy part that I was actually able to create was like down here, where I was sort of trying to suggest that these flowers were like coming up and off of her dress, like coming to life, right? Like that there was this sort of like morphing of sort of real and abstract, dream.
Leah, and then there was a piece of mine that was too small once, and we were gluing it to the board in Houston, and it kind of freaked me out. I thought, like, oh my gosh, I don't know enough yet to know, like, that the wax is going to cover that. But what I'm hearing you say is, like, it's okay, like, it's all going to even out once you put it on there visually.
Well, right, and maybe in a way, by using a photo that's too small for the board, you're giving yourself space. You're giving yourself some space, like room to grow, like, right? You're giving yourself some quiet space, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't have a literal meaning or that you're not like committed to, right? Mm-hmm. So it could just be like plain. And why does the whole composition have to have, conceptual, factual information.
Right.
Because
you're not going to see that division, right? It's not going to be as great of a divide visually once the wax is on top. I think.
Exactly. Right. So exactly. So you can blend these two layers by making this the same color as this, or you could make this, darker, which would make it go back. And if you made it lighter, it would make it go forward. So you could add more flowers here, right? As if this one was actually, right? So again, it's about like sort of layering and creating three-dimensional perspective, right?
Also, 702, just so you know.
Right. You what?
It's 702. I'm a bad.
Okay, great. Does anybody need? If you guys are, I don't need a break, so I don't need to take a break. If you guys are good, does anybody need?
I'm good.
Carrie, how are you doing?
Okay.
You okay? You're very quiet. Are you okay? Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I know most of this so far.
Okay. So let's move on to wax and painting. So I can just kind of, and Carrie probably knows this too. And then I'm going to go into some R&F. It's always good to watch it again. All right, so I'm going to paint the paper pieces with wax, and I'm going to paint this panel, which is kind of interesting because I'm going to like repaint something I've already painted. And what happens for that is that like maybe you could just like change the color, right? So this is how this painting turned out. But look, I made this one, right? And so what I was able to do was put more wax on it, which kind of obscured some of the lines. But I think it turned out really nice because it's just her face right here that is sharp, and literally like everything else in the whole thing is blurry. Right? So then you're kind of like, my original painting, maybe it wasn't blurry enough, right? So what happens if I blur it again? Like add another blur to it. And I kind of like it. And I also like the purple, right? So I changed the colors a little bit by adding this purple and adding more texture in here. So every time you work with the wax, it basically makes it one of a kind, right? Okay, so I'll do this one. I'll do this one. I already did these, so I'm just going to paint these tonight. And I'll do one of these. So I'll do you guys wanted me to do the brown one or the bluish green one? This one or this one? For some reason, I like this one better. Do you guys,
I like the brown better. I don't know.
Yeah, I like this one better, yeah. Okay, so me too, I agree. Also, I like the shape better. So like to speak to what Jennifer was talking about, if I have a rectangle on this shape, I'm going to sort of start to think about how this art can go outside these borders, right? So that's something I'm always trying to think about. So, all right, I'm going to pick a brush. These brushes are nice and soft because they've been in my mud, right? And can you guys see the hot plate? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my mud is like I always like to sort of show the color of my mud, so I keep white paper around. This is my mud color right now, which ironically is really pretty with this, right?
Yeah.
So technically, I could actually use some of that mud to paint onto this photo, but I'm going to clean this brush a little bit. I'm not going to go too crazy about it. This is my wax medium, right? So there isn't really any encaustic paint in here. And what I do is I try to do a strategy of different brush strokes. So I might go like smooth and straight down the middle, which is sort of where the stream is. And then I might do something, and even I could switch brushes to like a smaller brush. Now this is how I clean my brushes. So I use this extra mud pan, and I just put all the brushes in there that I've been painting with, and then I dip them out. I brush them like this. I might take a paper towel and just kind of brush the brush out on the paper towel. You can also squeeze the bristles like this, right, to get the excess wax out of there, and then you're kind of good to go. All right, now I'm in the wax medium over here. And I'm thinking about taking this, these trees, right? So I'm using the brush on its side and sort of using the brush strokes to make this cool texture. I hope you guys can see that texture. So I'm not brushing like smooth, I'm kind of brushing rough, right? And then I can kind of like go like this. Now I'm trying to gap this border where I have the paper glued onto the paper. So, and I'm thinking about the river coming down this way, right? And this can all be texture. All right, so that's pretty good. Now that is a lot of texture, right? I hope you guys can see all of that. But if you can't see it now, you're going to be able to see it once I start painting it. So I'll put that to the side and let that cool. Where'd the other one go? Oh, now I'll do this one. Okay. So I'm going to try to like make a bunch of brush strokes that I think just look good, right? So the two types of brush strokes that I like to use, actually there's three. So the first one is like the straight up and down, which is what I call the most focused, right? Or clearest. The second one is what I call like a hashtag, where I'm literally crisscrossing, right? I'm just going up and down and across and across. If we could just learn these like three different types of strokes, I think that's helpful. It's almost like a walk, trot, and canter, right? If you were like a horse person, which I happen to love horses right now, but if so the smoothest gait is of course the canter, so that would be the cleanest one. That'd be straight down, right? The walk is bumpy, and then the trot is like really bumpy, right? So I also do the dab, right? So I have the straight down, I have the crisscross, and then I have the dab, which is literally, kind of like taking the brush sideways like this, right? And what you're doing is you're sort of making like a fossilized imprint of the side of the brush. You could also do this, right? But it would just take a long time to kind of like build up an area. Okay. So I think that looks nice. Now, if I decide that I think an area is too bumpy, right? Or too textured, that is where I can use my wax removal techniques, right? And what are my wax removal techniques?
The palette knife and the razor.
Right, so palette knife, right, paint scraper, palette knife, razor blade. What is my even more aggressive removal tool?
Heat.
The heat gun or the
Torch.
Exactly, right. So at something like this is what I'm gonna stick to this tonight. This is like this what I call the simplest. Excuse me. Oh, one more. Okay, good. That's it. Three. If you sneeze more than 3 times, it's like instant death. No, I'm just kidding. Oh my god. All right. So this is like a lot of people, they, I don't know if they just think like they have to do more work than I don't know. I don't know why. Sometimes people say to me like, oh, that's all you have to do. And I'm like, well, I mean, technically, one coat of wax medium is all you have to do. I mean, to have a wax photo or a wax piece. I think that this is a very nice, very simple process. So we're just going to stick to this tonight. The other thing about this is you technically do not have to fuse it. So you can literally just go photo, wax medium, pigment sticks, and be done. Okay? Everybody got it?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So, and you can see the wax is starting to sort of chill out. And I'm going to go ahead and make her face a little bit blurrier. So I'm going to actually cover her